Now we have the gentleman of the hour with us here on WFAA Plus. Gromer Jeffers from the Dallas Morning News beside me, and WFAA's senior political reporter Jason Whitely. You moderated this thing. We have been talking, Bud and Katie and I, for the last hour about the fact that it was fiery. Bud even said he was going to start looking for the fire extinguisher up here and bring it down to you guys. But we just want to spend a little bit of time picking your brain and hearing what your greatest takeaways were. Maybe, Jason, we'll start with you. Peel back the layer. We could see the handshake before. We could see the handshake afterward. What could you see that we could not see?
You know, listen, at the end of the day, I think it was respectful from both sides, but these guys did not hold back. Everyone knows Ted Cruz is a skilled debater. That's established. People probably expected Cruz to come in here, gloves on, maybe taking them off, but I did not expect the street brawl that I think it turned into. Colin Allred, I think, performed better than I expected.
Okay.
I don't know what I expected him to perform like, but I'm surprised that he delivered a number of one-liners. The January 6th question that Gromer had, Allred said, you know, listen, this is not funny. This is not funny.
Yeah, he did.
You're a threat to democracy. Allred had another line near the end about, I think in his closing statement, about angertainment.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. Allred was clearly prepared for this tonight, and I think it easily showed. Now, the question everyone, I think, wants to know after debates like this is, okay, who won? Who won?
I know. I just got a text from a friend of all of ours asking me who won.
Yeah. Well, I think it's obvious. The last thing I'll say, Gromer, because Gromer has a tremendous amount of experience in these. But I think it was a tie. I think at the end of the day, it was a tie. Both men performed very well.
Yeah, I think if your base, if you like Colin Allred, you're coming away from this.
Then you love him after
tonight. You're like, oh my God.
Right. And vice versa.
Yeah, because we knew that it would be tough, and I kind of figured it would be a brawl. And quite frankly, we all talked about that during rehearsal. And thanks, by the way, for helping us prepare. It was terrific. I mean,
it's a lot of fun helping you guys get ready.
Yeah,
and I think we threw you guys some punches during rehearsals that actually happened during the actual
Have you told them yet about rehearsals?
Tell the viewer here, Teresa played Colin Allred for us downstairs.
During our debate rehearsals.
During the debate rehearsals for several days, and one of our political producers, Michael McCardle, played Ted Cruz.
Right.
And Gromer brings it up because these guys clearly prepared us for what to expect. It was almost spot on.
Exactly, and I almost chuckled in the beginning because Allred's answer was mirrored your answer so much. I mean, you know,
I just did a lot of research. That's all I did.
And I looked at him, and it wasn't you. It was actually Allred. And I would say, okay, this is real now. But I think both sides. If you like Cruz, you feel good about his performance as well. But what I would say is, very rarely in a big-time debate has Cruz come across someone who's not only going to punch back, but actually initiate the contact. And that's what happened tonight. So it was fascinating to see both of them go at it, because Allred was on the offensive a lot, but Cruz, you know, he was counterpunching at times. And we rarely see Cruz as the puncher, but he was doing it. And I saw Cruz smile at one point.
Yeah, it looked like he was having fun
exactly.
a couple of times.
After an Allred attack, he smiled at one point, almost like, oh, okay, that was good. And then he went back at it. And so I think it was a fascinating tactical battle. Who won or lost, I'm not sure of that.
Well, if you ask either party, they're going to say they were the winners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I was also struck by afterwards how in our conversations they both acknowledged that it was a worthwhile experience and a tough fight.
Good.
And thanked us for doing it.
So before the debate, I asked Katie Sherrod and Bud Kennedy, our commentators here, if we thought that these guys liked each other. I just said a few minutes ago after we played one of the exchanges about border or January 6th, one of them, that I think my question was answered. I didn't get the feeling that they came away from that best buds. What was the energy like? Did you feel like there was definitely a feeling that these are not two guys who necessarily want to be best friends?
One thing that struck me was at the very end of the debate when they were playing the music and we stood up to shake hands.
Right.
Yeah.
The microphones had been cut at that moment. And usually, my experience in the past has been both candidates come over and shake both of our hands, and then we swap candidates and say thanks for coming tonight.
Right.
We appreciate you participating. Ted Cruz walked over, and Colin Allred started to walk over, and Cruz finished walking over and shook our hands. Allred went back to the lectern and waited.
I noticed that.
Right.
And then Cruz finished, and then Allred walked over. Read into it what you will. I just thought it was interesting because in my previous experience, that's never happened
Normally,
before.
both
Right.
come towards
They walk
you
over and say
at the
thank-
same
Right.
time.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the-
no,
the-
I
the
did
time.
notice that
Yeah.
too, Jason. And I wondered if that meant what it meant. I noticed he kind of stayed back and he was picking up some things, maybe a note or something.
Maybe he wanted to
didn't
give,
want somebody
to give the
see.
senator time
Yeah.
up there with us just for a second and then have his own moment. I
And
don't
then,
know.
and then there were a few seconds left, so the four of us had like a four-way conversation, and that was interesting because they actually, not a whole lot, but sort of had some dialogue with each other. And I thought the handshake was interesting as well.
Yeah.
It seemed genuine. That,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it
it's not like I said, two men who will ever be or want to be best friends. But maybe there's a respect there for the fact that you just put yourself through 60 minutes of tough questioning. I know you guys have to get on and get ready for.
Are you rushing us off already,
No,
Teresa?
no. I just want to be mindful of the fact that if you have other things to do.
No, it's
but
fine.
I am just a couple more questions. Topic-wise, is there anything that you thought was, an absolute, home run for one of them or a swing and a miss for the other? Like, was there anything that resonated with you that you thought topic-wise really was a strong moment or a really weak moment for either one?
I think both campaigns are happy with the topics they expected to do well with
Yeah.
and expected to land punches with.
Such as?
Abortion. I think Colin Allred has to be happy about that exchange. Expecting Ted Cruz not to answer, Jason, your question about your personal views on exceptions for rape and incest to the Texas abortion law. So that exchange, I think Allred is happy with. But I think Cruz is probably happy with the transgender conversation about transgender athletes in women's sports, and maybe border as well. And January 6th, Allred's happy with that. So
Yeah.
I think they saw opportunities to maximize their potential in those questions, and they were pretty effective in doing that.
And the tough part about this is we always go into this with a hell of a lot more questions than we have
Oh,
time.
Oh, of
yeah.
course, right.
And we all three worked on this
and you
with
leave
Bud and
you
others.
leave things on the table,
Sure.
and you
I-
wish
I-
you could have asked.
We had
yes.
12 or 13 questions
Yeah.
ready to go, but we
Right.
knew we wouldn't get to that many. We got to 10 questions. It was only 60 minutes. If you watch the vice presidential debate, if you watch the presidential debate, they had an hour and a half, almost 2 hours
Right.
of questions. They hit a lot of things. They had a lot more time to massage topics a little bit here. At the end of the day, I think we had 4 topics that were really lightning rod issues. We played 2 of them off the top, abortion and border, 1 for each, because abortion is an issue that Allred wants to talk about. Border is an issue Cruz wants to talk about. We got into some pocketbook issues, a few other things, foreign policy. Then we come back to 2 more about halfway through, the transgender issue that Cruz is really hitting Allred on. And then we hit the January 6th question. All legitimate questions, all of them that both candidates want to talk about here. But there are also moments, I think, when you structure a debate that will also kind of light the fire. And we kept kind of the fire going.
Right.
I did not expect the reaction we had from Colin Allred. I knew Ted Cruz. I know both of these men, but I know what Ted Cruz is. I know he's a skilled debater. I know he has command of the facts. But what we saw tonight from Allred was not something I expected. I've been talking to a number of Republicans texting me tonight, and they were saying that Cruz underestimated Allred,
Oh wow.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm not all that surprised by it, and I'll tell you why. He's a middle linebacker.
That's true.
Yeah. and he has to be able to unravel offenses, to read, to anticipate what's going to happen. I think he took a football mentality, or athletes or competitors mentality into this debate. He was obviously prepared,
Yeah.
and again, the shots he landed were tough shots.
Yeah.
I mean, so what could have been a debate where Cruz sort of controlled the action.
It wasn't.
Like it wasn't. It was a debate where they both landed punches. They both were on defense and offense, it was a fascinating tactical debate.
Yeah, just as someone who was listening and watching, Ted Cruz talks loud.
Yeah.
I just thought this is an interesting comparison of two very different personalities, because you do have Ted Cruz, who we have seen for years has a very loud voice, and boy does he get animated, and especially in a debate. Colin Allred in an interview, we all know, is very cool, calm, and collected, doesn't really get overly energized and loud in an interview. But when you put him in that debate stage, the energy level went up and he was fiery. And I'm just curious about the people at home, if they take anything away from that, if they feel like you had one person whose personality and demeanor is always sort of this elevated, then you have somebody who's a little bit more, come on man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates at
Well,
all.
that's interesting. And keep in mind that maybe most of the viewers, this is their first time seeing Colin
Yeah, that's a
Allred,
good
because
point. That's a good point.
he's not on television a lot. He hasn't had the rallies, going to 254 counties like Beto O'Rourke did in 2018. So maybe this was
They've
the
seen
first
him on TV though, on the
on the
commercials.
commercials.
Scripted moments.
Scripted
Yeah.
moments,
Sure.
and this is the first time I bet that a lot of
them are
folks,
seeing it.
and they're seeing this guy, and oh, okay, that's what he's about. So
And listen, I think the question moving forward here from what is it, 9:15 is, this was the largest audience that either of these two men have had so far and will have. We were on 25 different stations with this debate.
Across the
You
state of
guys were
Texas
streaming it
and
here
in
on
Louisiana,
WFAA
yeah.
Plus.
Mm-hmm.
It was on C-SPAN. It was all over Texas, even Louisiana. Every corner of the state. There's not one market in this state, Lubbock, El Paso, the Panhandle, everywhere had this on. And I think the question now is, does any of this, does Colin Allred's introduction, his performance tonight, does any of this change the debate?
That's a very good
change the
question.
polling, because it was already close. People have their minds made up about Ted Cruz, about Colin Allred. Most of them do about Colin Allred. But Colin Allred really got an opportunity here to introduce himself to that 30% of people who don't have an opinion of him tonight. Did he change any minds? And I don't think we'll know that for a few weeks until we
Well,
get some polling, or
3
until
weeks
the
from
election.
tonight.
Yeah.
We'll know who won, right?
yeah, and I think it'll help his fundraising. He's already been impressive with his fundraising. I think it'll help there. The question is, will it also help with the energy of the campaign?
Right.
Get people fired up, motivated to go out, knock doors, and do whatever you have to do to get people to the polls. If it does that, I think it would have been an endeavor worthwhile for him. Same with Cruz. But, Cruz has that built-in advantage. This is typically a conservative state. Conservatives dominate the electorate for AHAB since 1994. And so, he can count on that. But now will Allred be able to, have another well of voter, pool of voters to pull from because of the performance tonight?
I know we'll wrap up here in a second. The one thing I've mentioned it a couple of times tonight during our live stream is the great unknown in Texas right now are the new registered voters.
Yes.
Since the last time that Ted Cruz was on the ballot in 2018, we have 2.6 million new registered voters in the state. He won by 215,000 votes last time. Clearly, that could make a difference. Will they all vote? Again, the great unknown. So I guess that's the final thing I'll ask you. And Jason, you kind of addressed this, but can a debate sway the minds of these people? Do you think that it?
1,000%.
You think it? You think it can?
And I would say, look no further than Joe Biden.
Yeah,
That's a
I
very
was,
good point.
Look,
Yeah.
Joe Biden
Right.
defined how debates can change a race instantaneously. I mean, before that presidential debate was even over, you had Democrats online calling for Biden to drop out of the race. One of them, his name slips my mind. Who is it, Bernadine? The state rep from
Lloyd Doggett.
Lloyd Doggett.
No, before him, it was somebody else.
Oh.
It was the guy in Houston,
Ron
a friend of
Reynolds.
mine, Ron Reynolds,
Yeah.
the chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus.
Yeah, he was.
And he got
the first,
excoriated from other Democrats on that. But I think debates can clearly change it. Now, I don't know if enough happened tonight to change that. Don't get me wrong either. Ted Cruz had a very good night.
Oh,
we expected
right.
Ted Cruz to have a good night tonight.
Yeah.
I did not expect Colin Allred to perform as strong as he did tonight. That's why I'm talking a lot about Allred here, because I think his performance was more than I expected. And I know at least some Republicans are telling me that they think that Cruz underestimated Allred as well.
But no one can underestimate Senator Ted Cruz. I mean, he always performs, and you put him in a situation like this, and he's going to hit a home run with practically everything you throw at him. I mean, the man was a champion debater, national champion.
It showed tonight.
Yes,
Yeah, he knows what he's doing up there, and that's why every debate he goes into, if you're an odds maker, you're going to install him as probably the favorite. Now, if there was we're not going to get a rematch, and I think that's too bad, because I would like to see this again.
You want to do this again, man?
Yeah, exactly. I would. Well, we can use the rest of our. I mean, we got plenty of other questions, but you're not going to see it again. But if you were to see it again, I mean, what would the odds be? Who would be the favorite to win? That would be an interesting number that some odds maker would have to, put on, on the race.
Well, in Gromer's dreams, he's doing it again. So, Jason,
he's already ready,
sign
man.
you up, huh?
Wow.
I can simply say, as a colleague and as a fellow journalist, I thought you guys did a fantastic job tonight. I know it has been an exhausting few weeks and months to prepare for this, but you guys really did a phenomenal job. I think you represented what the viewers and what the voters needed to hear. You were asking hard questions and holding them to account. You didn't always get an answer, but you tried, and I just want to commend you for, as you said, keeping it respectful, but also letting it get a little fiery. So kudos to you guys.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, thanks for helping us prepare.
And the teamwork,
Teamwork, that's
100%.
right. It makes the dream work. Okay, Jason and Gromer, go have a stiff drink if that's what you want to have. I told everybody earlier maybe that's what y'all were doing between 8 and 9 o'clock when you came out here to join us. I know, I'm just kidding, but get some good rest tonight.
All right.